Elton is actually quite upset with Harry for several reasons.
There is a certain kind of ending that hurts far more than any loud public fallout ever could. It is the quiet kind. The kind where someone slowly stops answering your calls, stops offering help without being asked, and little by little is no longer the one person you could always count on when everything went wrong. That is what many reports suggest may have happened this week between Prince Harry and the man who had quietly stood beside Princess Diana's sons ever since the day she passed away. Elton John did not become part of this family's story because of business, Meghan's circle, or anything connected to the last few years in Montecito. His connection goes back decades before any of that.
I have been told that he actually has asked Elton to give him some money for Invictus. Elton has said no.
He was there inside Westminster Abbey, sitting at the piano and performing a rewritten version of his most famous song during a funeral watched by billions around the world. Over the years, many accounts described him as becoming much more than a celebrity friend. To many observers, he seemed to grow into the role of a trusted mentor and father figure in Harry's life. Now, according to reports circulating widely in London, that long-time friendship may have finally reached its limit. Those reports claim Elton made it clear to Harry that he is not, in his own words, a bank. To understand how a friendship that lasted for more than 3 decades could reach this point, it helps to look beyond one difficult week. Relationships with that much history rarely fall apart because of just one moment. Instead, they often begin to unravel when one event brings a much longer pattern into the spotlight, revealing issues that may have been building quietly behind the scenes for years.
Harry may have to spend millions, because loser typically pays when you lose a lawsuit in the UK, and he, to put it frankly, got his ass handed to him by this judge.
The latest chapter reportedly began 8 days ago when Harry walked out of a London courtroom after losing what many described as the biggest legal battle of his adult life. Reports say all 97 claims in the case against the publisher of the Daily Mail were rejected. The legal costs connected to that outcome have been widely estimated at more than £50 million. And reports also say Elton's name became linked to those costs because he had agreed early in the process to help support the case financially. What reportedly happened next is the moment many believe everything finally changed. With those legal costs still hanging over the situation, reports claim Harry reached out to Elton once again. This time, it was not about the court case itself, but about a completely different request. According to those reports, that was the point where the friendship finally cracked. This story carries more than 30 years of history, and it deserves more than a quick viral headline.
Some people have said he's going really off his rocker. This has been so bad. It's literally the week where nothing went right. It's his worst week in 30 years.
To understand what may have happened, it helps to look at the full picture. How did Elton John go from performing at Princess Diana's funeral to reportedly closing the door on one of her sons? What is this legal battle really costing the people connected to it? And why are 4 simple words now being described as one of the most quietly heartbreaking things ever said to a prince? To understand why this reported rejection hit so hard, you first have to understand that this was never an ordinary celebrity friendship built on red carpets, famous names, or photo opportunities. Elton's bond with Diana was widely seen as real and lasting. It began years before her death and was not something that appeared only after tragedy brought the world's attention to it. When Diana passed away, Elton rewrote the lyrics to his most famous song so he could perform it at her funeral. He played it before what was, at the time, one of the largest television audiences in history, holding his composure through an incredibly emotional moment, while millions watched. That special version of Candle in the Wind reportedly raised more than $47 million for Diana's memorial fund, and Elton never performed that version in public again.
He used to have the Bank of England, and now he's got the Bank of Elton. Harry needs a lot of money for Invictus. The only reason he went to England this summer is to raise funds for Invictus Birmingham 2027. He is £25 million short.
Not even once over the decades that followed. He later said more than once that the song belonged only to Diana from that day forward. In the years after her passing, reports and public accounts say Elton stayed closely connected to both Prince William and Prince Harry, remaining a steady and familiar presence during a difficult period in their lives. He was not simply a famous family friend who sent holiday cards or appeared at special events. By many accounts, he remained actively involved, offering support and stability when it mattered most. His husband, David Furnish, even described Elton in a sworn statement as a parental figure to Harry. That description carries real weight. It is not the kind of phrase people casually use for an old friend. It suggests someone who helped fill part of the space left behind after an unimaginable loss, making everything that reportedly followed feel even more significant. There is one moment from 2007 that says a lot about what this relationship was really like, long before today's headlines. Harry was still a young man, still carrying the deep grief of losing his mother, when he asked Elton if he would perform Candle in the Wind once again at a concert held in Diana's memory. Elton said no, but not because he did not want to help.
You lose the case, but I'm saying that he might have lost Elton John.
Yes.
This, he's apparently, Elton John's told him, this was according to Paula Freilich, I think you interviewed.
Yeah.
I'm not an ATM.
According to accounts of the event, he believed that particular song was simply too personal and too closely connected to Diana's funeral to be performed again. Instead, he chose to sing Your Song, allowing the tribute to honour her in a different way. Even back then, Elton appeared to be acting like the steady adult in the room, trying to protect Harry's emotions instead of putting his grief in the spotlight. Harry clearly understood what Elton meant to him, and he said so in his own memoir. Writing with unusual warmth, he said, "I loved him. I'll always love him." Those are Harry's own words, and they help explain why the recent reports about their relationship have drawn so much attention. Elton was also there at Harry and Meghan's royal wedding in 2018, instantly recognisable in his signature pink glasses. Later, during the reception, he performed Tiny Dancer for the guests, adding another memorable chapter to a friendship that had already stretched across decades. The following year, when Harry and Meghan faced intense media attention after stepping back from royal duties, Elton did not stay silent. He released a public statement under his own name, saying he felt a deep responsibility to help protect Harry and his family from the kind of media intrusion that, in his view, had contributed to the tragic loss of Diana years earlier. It was a strong and very public show of support. That is not the picture of someone who only appears when times are easy. For decades, Elton repeatedly stood by Harry, often speaking out when he believed it mattered most. That long history is exactly why the latest reports about tension between them have captured so much attention. When a friendship built over so many years is said to have reached this point, people naturally want to understand what may have changed. If this breakdown is giving you more than just another viral headline, hit the like button. It helps this channel reach more people who want the full story instead of quick clips. Stay with me, because the next part is based on the court's written judgment, and that is where the situation becomes much more serious. 8 days ago, a High Court judge delivered a decision in Harry's major privacy case against the publisher of the Daily Mail. According to the ruling, all 97 claims in the case were dismissed. Harry was not the only claimant involved either. A well-known group had joined the legal action alongside him.
He has $4 million from corporates and anonymous donors. He needs $25 million more. And this was supposed to be a big triumphant return. He was going to go glad hand people and really get them to open their wallets. They're not.
That group included Baroness Doreen Lawrence, Elizabeth Hurley, Sadie Frost, Elton John, and David Furnish, all listed together as claimants in the case. In the end, the court ruled against the group as a whole. Losing a case of this size in the UK can involve much more than disappointment. Depending on the court's orders and the circumstances, it can also lead to significant legal costs. Reports have placed the combined figure at more than £50 million, and several news outlets said the publisher's former editor reacted with obvious satisfaction after the judgment was announced. Here is the part that many people may not realise, and it helps explain why this story has attracted so much attention. Reports about the funding arrangement claim that some of the co-claimants, including Baroness Lawrence, had been told they would not personally be responsible for legal costs if the case was unsuccessful. According to those same reports, Elton and Harry had agreed to take on that financial risk themselves if the case did not go their way. Now that the ruling has been handed down, those reported costs have become a major talking point. Some commentators have questioned whether Harry could realistically cover such a large amount on his own, leading to wider discussion about who would ultimately be responsible if those reports accurately reflected the original arrangement. As for Harry's reaction, reports say he was deeply disappointed by the outcome. After leaving the courtroom, he publicly described the ruling as a complete whitewash. Those comments came after the judge issued a detailed judgment running to hundreds of pages, explaining the court's reasoning and conclusions point by point. Reports say several senior lawyers had warned Harry well before the trial that this case faced a significant risk under the legal standards involved. Even with those reported warnings, the case moved forward. When the judgment was delivered, it ended in a decisive loss, and Harry later criticised the ruling in a public statement, describing the outcome in very strong terms. One detail has drawn particular attention from people following the story closely. When Harry released that statement criticising the court's decision, Elton John's name was not included alongside it. While there could be many reasons for that, some commentators have pointed to the absence as a sign that the two men may not have been fully aligned after the verdict. It is a small detail, but one that has sparked plenty of discussion. The legal defeat was already a major setback, but reports suggest it was not the only reason Harry travelled to Britain during that period. According to multiple outlets, he was also hoping to secure additional financial support for the Invictus Games, which are scheduled to take place in Birmingham in 2027. Those reports claim the event still faced a substantial funding gap. Organisers had reportedly secured millions in funding, including government support, but were said to be looking for much more to meet the overall budget. Harry's visit was reportedly expected to include conversations with long-time supporters and potential donors who might help close that gap.
Still angry about a story in a newspaper from 20 years ago, and if you upset this prince, he's gonna get ya. Doesn't matter how long it takes, he's gonna come for you. He went for the newspaper, and then he went for the individual journalists, and really went after them in the most vicious way.
According to the reports now circulating, those fundraising efforts did not produce the results many had hoped for. Among the names mentioned was Elton John, someone who had been one of Harry's longest-standing supporters over the years, and one of Princess Diana's closest friends. This is the sequence that has fueled so much discussion. Reports claim Elton had already agreed to help support the legal case, leaving him potentially connected to significant legal costs after the court's decision. Those same reports then allege that Harry later approached him about supporting the Invictus Games as well. If those reports are accurate, many observers believe that timing helps explain why the friendship is now being described as being under serious strain. That reported sequence, more than any single headline, is what has captured so much attention. Reports say Elton declined the request. According to those accounts, he had already made that decision even before the judge officially delivered the ruling in the Daily Mail case, believing the legal battle was unlikely to end well. One reported quote has received enormous attention, with people close to Elton allegedly saying his message came down to 4 simple words: "I am not an ATM." That reported response quickly became one of the biggest talking points surrounding the story. Some commentators have gone even further, suggesting that the support Elton had quietly provided over the years had finally reached its limit. According to multiple reports, the issue was no longer just about one request. It was about a growing feeling that enough was enough. Those same reports claim Elton was deeply frustrated by the situation. They suggest he believed he had become involved in a legal battle that ultimately exposed him to substantial financial costs. If those reports are accurate, it helps explain why this moment is being described as far more serious than a simple disagreement between long-time friends. When you step back and look at the broader picture, the numbers themselves have become a major part of the conversation. One royal commentator even described the past several weeks as the most difficult period Harry has faced in decades. Whether people agree with that assessment or not, it reflects how dramatically the public discussion has shifted in a short space of time. Although Harry has been associated with major commercial deals, including Netflix, Spotify, and the publication of his memoir, several reports have suggested that his personal financial situation may be more complicated than many people assume. Public estimates of personal wealth can vary, and exact figures have not been confirmed. But much of the discussion has focused on the fact that a significant portion of his long-term assets has been linked to family inheritances rather than ongoing income alone. By many accounts, the inheritance left by Princess Diana, along with money received from other family estates, has remained an important part of Harry's financial foundation. For many observers, that detail adds another layer to the story, showing how the legacy of his family continues to shape his life long after those gifts were first received. Reports have also suggested that Harry faces significant ongoing expenses. Commentators have pointed to personal security costs, the mortgage on the Montecito home, and the staff needed to manage the household as major financial commitments. On top of that, reports say he also faced additional legal costs after losing a separate court challenge over his UK security arrangements, adding even more pressure to an already expensive year. Another moment that attracted attention came during a recent podcast interview. Harry was asked a simple question that most people answer without much thought. What do you actually do for a living? His response quickly became a talking point, with many viewers saying he appeared to search for the right answer. He mentioned being a prince, a veteran, and a father before eventually referring to himself as a duke. The exchange sparked plenty of discussion online, with different people interpreting it in different ways. At the same time, some royal commentators have suggested that Harry's circle of supporters may be changing. Whether that reflects natural changes over time or something more significant remains open to debate, but the conversation has become impossible to ignore. That discussion has even produced its own nickname in some corners of social media and the press: getting markled. The phrase is used by critics to describe a situation where a once close relationship is believed to cool over time. Supporters of Harry and Meghan strongly dispute that characterization, but it has nevertheless become a recurring part of the public conversation. Names such as the Beckhams, Oprah, and the Clooneys are often mentioned in that wider debate, although the circumstances surrounding each relationship are different and many details remain private. Now, according to current reports and commentary, Elton John has become the latest high-profile name linked to those discussions, making this story feel even more significant because of the decades of history between him and Harry. So, where does Meghan fit into everything that has been unfolding? Reports from several outlets claim she was frustrated that Harry pursued the legal case in the first place. Those reports suggest she watched from California as the case became increasingly costly, both financially and, according to the commentary surrounding it, in terms of some long-standing relationships as well. Whether that particular report is completely accurate is impossible to confirm from the outside, and it is important to keep that in mind. Even so, many people noticed that Meghan was not publicly by Harry's side during what commentators have described as one of the most difficult weeks of his public life. There could be many reasons for that, but it has become part of the wider conversation surrounding these events. One thing that should not be overlooked is Elton John's own situation. At 78, he has spoken openly about experiencing serious vision problems, sharing the news himself without asking for sympathy or attention. That reality adds another layer to the story and deserves to be treated with respect. Now consider the picture that many reports have painted. On one side is a music legend dealing with major health challenges later in life. On the other is a prince who, according to those reports, reached out seeking additional financial support while significant legal costs were already hanging over the situation. If that sequence is accurate, it is easy to understand why so many people have reacted so strongly. But beyond the headlines and the reported figures, there may be an even bigger question. Money can be earned again, legal cases eventually end, and news cycles always move on. Relationships built over decades are much harder to rebuild once they are seriously damaged. Harry has faced public setbacks before and continued moving forward. Yet, if even part of the recent reporting reflects what truly happened, this situation could represent the loss of something far more personal than a legal battle. For decades, Elton John was widely seen as one of the few people who shared a direct emotional connection to Princess Diana and remained a steady presence in Harry's life through the years that followed. By many public accounts, Elton was more than a famous friend. He stood beside Diana during her lifetime, honoured her memory before the world at her funeral, and continued supporting Harry over the next 3 decades. That long history is what makes the latest reports resonate with so many people. If this friendship has truly reached a breaking point, it marks the possible end of one of the oldest and most meaningful relationships connected to Harry's life after his mother's passing. What many people are now discussing is the reported sequence of events that led to this moment. According to recent reports, Harry may have strained even this decades-long friendship, involving Elton in a legal battle that ended with major financial consequences and then reportedly approaching him for additional support afterward. If that account is accurate, it helps explain why this story has captured so much attention. Take a moment to think about everything that would have had to happen over so many years for a relationship like this to reach such a point. We are talking about Princess Diana's closest surviving friend, someone who had been seen for decades as one of Harry's most loyal supporters, reportedly deciding that it was finally time to step back. That is a remarkable claim, and one that has sparked widespread debate. If the reports are true, this situation did not begin with the media, the palace, or any single headline. Instead, it reflects a series of events that, over time, may have placed one of Harry's oldest friendships under increasing pressure. There is also another side to this story that should not be ignored. Elton John is now 78 years old and has spoken publicly about the serious vision problems he is facing. If he has chosen to set firmer boundaries, as reports suggest, many people would likely understand that decision in light of everything else happening in his own life. That brings us to the question many commentators are asking. With the court ruling behind him, legal costs still being discussed, and reports suggesting one of his longest-standing supporters has stepped back, what comes next for Harry? More importantly, who will stand beside him if this friendship has truly changed after all these years? Those are questions that only time will answer. For now, much of this story remains based on reports and public commentary, rather than confirmed statements from everyone involved. Still, if even part of those reports proves accurate, it would mark the end of one of the longest and most significant relationships in Harry's life since the loss of his mother. That possibility alone is why so many people are paying close attention to what happens next. What many people are now discussing is the reported chain of events that led to this moment. According to recent reports, Harry may have placed even this decades-long friendship under serious strain by involving Elton in a legal battle that ended with major financial consequences and then reportedly approaching him for additional support afterward. If those reports are accurate, they help explain why this story has attracted so much attention. Think about how many choices, spread across so many years, would have had to lead to a moment like this. We are talking about Princess Diana's longtime friend, someone widely viewed as one of Harry's most loyal supporters for decades, reportedly deciding that enough was enough. That is a remarkable claim, and one that has sparked a great deal of debate. If the reporting is correct, this situation was not caused by a single headline, the palace, or one news story. Instead, it appears to reflect a series of events that gradually placed one of Harry's oldest friendships under increasing pressure until it finally reached a breaking point. There is another side to this story that should not be forgotten. Elton John is now 78 years old and has spoken publicly about his serious vision problems. If he has decided to set firm boundaries, as several reports suggest, many people would understand that decision given everything he is dealing with in his own life. That leaves one big question. With the court case now behind him, legal costs still being discussed, and reports suggesting one of his longest-standing supporters has stepped back, where does Harry go from here? If this friendship has truly changed, it marks the possible end of one of the most meaningful relationships he has had since losing his mother. Now, I want to hear what you think. Tell me honestly in the comments below, has Elton John finally seen something real and genuinely unflattering in who Harry has quietly become over these past several years? Or is a genuinely decent, aging man simply being unfairly pulled into a fight and a financial mess he never should have agreed to join in the first place? If you enjoyed this breakdown and want more deep dives that go beyond the headlines, don't forget to like this video, subscribe to the channel, and turn on notifications so you never miss an upload. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you in the next one.